you all. We are live, guys. We are live on Facebook. I'm excited. I'm excited. It's going to be a great day. This conversation is going to be bomb. I see me. I see Michelle. I see Rose.
For this conference. I'm excited.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you all for joining me. We're going to invite some other people to come in here and just get to hear what we think about influencers and the season we're in and what God can do in and through someone who is passionate about the next generation. Yeah. So for those of you that are watching us, please do me a favor and let me know where you're watching. And for those of you from the Bahamas, I would have been in the Bahamas right now. Okay, I would have been. Listen, this whole squad, all of us, we would have been. Oh my goodness! Here's the deal. Here's the deal. We're going virtual. If you're a passionate lover of ministry and working with young people, the meeting of the year is about to go down. Okay, Friday and Saturday, good content. Boom, 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 boom. What is it called? It's called the Influencer Summit. We're going to tell you more about that in a minute, but I am joined today with three beautiful ladies who are amazing. These ladies are amazing, and I'm excited. And so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves. I'm going to ask, starting with Sherry Chester. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your commitment to the next generation or your involvement to the next generation.
Sure. My name is Sherry Chester. I'm a writer, speaker, and mentor. My commitment to the next generation is with women in leadership, and I want to make sure that we're living a legacy, not just leaving one. It's what we do right now that matters, and I think we develop influencers and we stop for people. We have to put the organization behind us and realize it's all relational. If we're going to be a great influencer, we better be about people. Jesus was, so we are too.
Nice. Let's go over to Jacksonville, Florida. Rosemary Wimbush, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. A little bit about me. I've actually been involved in children and youth and family ministry for a little over 30 years. And I've been staff at my church for 18 years. And one of the things that I love about working with our young people is that we get an opportunity to see fruit right in front of our eyes being developed. And so as we've done that, I've just been involved in the schools here for many, many years. Created some programs for students and things like that. I've authored a couple of books that are tailored toward families and their development with their children, and also produced a couple of CDs, believe that or not, on healing and affirmations for our young people. So I just love to see our young people grow and blossom into who God called them to be. So that's just a little bit about me.
Nice. Wonderful. Let's go on over to Chicago. Let's go to Chicago. Sabrina, what are you?
I am Sabrina L. Williams. I was formerly the children's pastor. I worked in children's ministry about over 20 years at my church. Now I am the online pastor. So I do all things online, but I also have my own ministry that I'm bringing back to life called Change CYM, because Chicago, we really need different things for our children and youth. So it's called Change Children and Youth Ministries, and I help people with online because God just given me the ability to do that. So I'm probably a marketer's nightmare. I do some of everything.
Well, listen, you're passionate. You've been doing it for a while and have been blessing hundreds, if not thousands, of young people and leaders. And so me and Sabrina, we met at the Kidman Conference years ago. Yeah. And they have been, both of you guys have been to all of the Influencers Summit.
Yeah, me and Rosemary.
Ministry. And then we had Sherry Chester was supposed to join us this year. And she was doing a conference that we're both a part of now. And that is the MegaCon conference that's going on actually now. It's going on like yesterday, I think. Was it yesterday? Or just today?
Today.
It started today. Yeah, so an incredible conference. I'm speaking tomorrow there. But ladies, man, we're all passionate about the next generation. We're all located in different parts here in the United States, but this conference was birthed in the Bahamas, but now has the ability to impact the region, or even more so the world. And so we've been fortunate enough to have person-sponsored churches. And so we have churches from Jamaica is going to be involved because of that. We have Turks and Caicos is going to be involved. We have a number of rural areas in the Bahamas that is getting sponsorship for the summit. So we're going to have a good spread. Canada is registered. Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
In Nigeria, who's like, listen, it's going to be a different time zone factor. That's really different. But one of our leaders there, she says, our team is coming in full force. And so when we talk about ministry and when we talk about young people, this whole term of influencer, there are a lot of people influencing and not paying attention to how they're doing that. When you think of the term influencer, what comes to mind? I'm going to ask Ms. Sherry to kick us off with the thought. When you think of the term influencer, what comes to mind?
I had thought about that, and I developed an acronym.
Yep.
It spells out influencers. And so this is what I believe it is. Influencers inspire noteworthiness. They forget limitations. That's huge.
Yep.
They uplift and engage, navigate and change. And influencers have expectations that reflect success. You realize that everything that has to do with a true influencer is positive rather than negative. They're affecting change in a way that benefits everyone and is not reflective of self.
That is so good. That is so good. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I hope you all taking notes. And if you're watching this, if you're a pastor, listen, guys, your children's ministry leader, your workers are influencers, okay? Those who have been called to serve young people, they're in front of the room. This is the meeting for those that are in front, okay? This is the meeting for those that are in front. Rosemary Wimber, go ahead and tell us your definition when you think of the term influencers. And you not only did you participate in this meeting that's an influencer meeting, you were a part of another influencer meeting. Talk to us about that as you answer that question.
Well, for me, I have actually three things that I think about when I think about influencers. The first is really the identity. A lot of times we don't think about it. So influencers doesn't have anything to do with your age, your gender, your economics, your education, or even where you're from or your race. It's about what's inside of you that you're able to give to someone else that's going to benefit them.
Yes.
And then the other thing is really just talking about the definition of an influencer. It's somebody that has an effect on your character, your development, and who you are to become. And one of the words that I looked up in the dictionary that stood out to me in this definition was the word capacity. And I thought about capacity and how much that we have inside of us. Because whatever it is that you have inside of us, inside of you, you have to be able to give it away. So if you have a great capacity, you're able to give away greatness. And if you have a smaller capacity, then you can give away what you can give away. But the idea is to build that capacity so that you're able to give away much. And then the third thing about this is, like what Sherry said, we want to be great, good influencers. We want to be positive because we've heard negative. You can be a negative influencer as well. Yeah. So we want to be positive influencers. And at this season, we want to have such a great rise in the positiveness of influence that there's influence around every corner.
Yeah.
And if it's around every corner, I love that you have the word influencers with an S, something. Yeah. That means it's more than one. And so there's many influencers, and that's what this summit is all about, reproducing more influencers in the earth that are going to do some great positive things.
Hoorah! 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 Man, listen. I wish I had an opportunity to go to a meeting like this 20 years ago. I might have done a lot more, had I haven't given an opportunity like this. Sabrina, your thoughts when it comes to the term influencer?
In its basic form, I believe that influencers is just a person who can transition a person's beliefs or actions. And the reason why I like to keep it that basic is because a lot of times we tend to think that we're influencing people by the number of people that follow us.
Yeah.
But you can have millions of followers, but if you're not transitioning someone to do something or believe something different, then they haven't been influenced by you. And so a real influencer has that ability to get someone to think different, to act different in a direction that will influence them, good or bad. And so in our case, we want to influence these people to think differently and to act differently so that they can influence the next generation.
Oh, that is so good. You know, Jesus said these words. He says, "Come follow me. I want to influence you. I'm an influencer, and I will make you an influencer as well." You know, prior to meeting him, nobody knew their names, but after, come on. So it is so important. It is so important. This season we're in, COVID-19, a global pandemic. Just churches have closed their doors. Some churches have been closed up to 7 months. Okay, up to 7 months. I've spoken with pastors who said, "Brother, we didn't have no form of electronic giving, and the majority of our members were older members, seasoned saints, and we didn't have any church because we wanted to protect the people, and so we've been closed for the entire time." One pastor I spoke to said in that time, because they didn't have no money coming in and they were barely holding the fort, he said the lights were turned off legitimately, the waters were turned off legitimately, and he said, "Brother, we have workers who are trying to go through the community and connect with kids." I thought about that, and I'm like, there are so many people who are totally shut down and totally disconnected. We've had fight. Those of you all ladies know about children's ministry for years. We've always had a struggle to somewhat find people to fall in love with serving in children's ministry. And now the pandemic has occurred and people have sat out for 6 months. Now, you know how long it takes to create a habit, okay? You know, I mean, come on, man, 30, 45 days, you start forming a habit. Let's just say 2-3 months, you start to lock into an idea. Before you know it, you're into something. Well, how many of y'all know within 3 to 4 months, you start disconnecting from anything that you haven't been a part of for a while. By the time you hit 6 months, you could be totally disconnected. I say all that to say this. There are a lot of children's ministry workers, youth workers, who have literally shut down shop. Like literally they're not walk away from the faith. They just walked away from their calling. And for some reason, it was based on, let's see what the pastor does first with the adult congregation before we get back in the game for reaching children. Now, that's not everybody. I understand, and I know that's not everybody. But I would like to talk to those who have been sitting on the sideline. A training like this is an opportunity to get back in the game and be resharpened and encouraged and be reminded on why you did what you did. Can you all talk? I want all of you guys to talk about getting back into the game of ministry, not with the idea of doing it how it used to be, but with the understanding that we're no longer where we were and moving forward. One, those who are called need to come back, because if you're called, you don't need to run from your call. You need to embrace your call. And then you need to get information appropriately to be engaged in this new season that we're in. So I'm going to ask you guys to dive in. Pastor Rosemary, you want to just help us out with those who are watching us and watching ministry, but are supposed to be in it, not watching.
Right. One of the big things I totally agree with what you're saying about some churches have been totally paralyzed by this pandemic, and they have kind of ceased to do what God had called them to do. But I'm going to tell them the charge hasn't changed. So we've got to make sure that we continue to do things now. We're challenged with how we continue on with this charge. But guess what? The enemy is counting on us to stop building, to stop doing things, to slow down. And even some people are getting kind of discombobulated because they don't know what direction to go in. But I'm going to tell you, if you listen to the Holy Spirit, He will tell you exactly what to do to continue to do the ministry. I'm going to tell you, some things have come out of me that I didn't even know was in me, because I had a desire to continue ministry. We have ministry going on 7 days a week. Now, we didn't even have that when we were in the church, but we're doing it right now because we can do things online. So there is no excuse for parents to say, hey, there's nothing for our kids to do. I'm like, no, we got you 7 days a week. We're taking it from another level. So God has given us an opportunity to see more of what we could have been doing, even with technology, along with doing things in the church. So don't get settled in just not doing anything, because the charge that God gave us hasn't changed. So I think this conference or this summit that you're doing, and we're all coming together to partner with you to do, it's going to give you a little bit of refreshing and energy, because you're going to be in an atmosphere where iron sharpens iron. And when you're in that atmosphere, you can't help but be excited about what God is going to do. And you can't help be excited, because even I think when you're in that atmosphere, you're going to hear creativity, whether you want to hear it or not. And then you'll be in an environment where you don't even want to leave, because it's going to be so exciting, because you're going to be so charged up about what's happening and what's going on. So don't get lazy. Don't get sedentary. Just kind of get up and get moving, because God still has a plan to continue on.
Oh, that is so good. Pastor Sherry, your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that people just need to punch the button, come sit and soak like this. I mean, when people are dry or they're not sure where to turn next, all they have to do is just let it be poured into them. This influencer summit is going to do that. Unequivocally, it will. It's like saying, okay, here is a clean slate. If you could do whatever you believed God was calling you to do, just erase what you've known that you've done and hear, and then assimilate that information in such a way that you're picking and choosing what you believe is right for your church body. I think this is a valuable time where sleeping giants get to arise quite purposefully, very deliberately, with a new charge, saying, I don't have to do everything, but what he's called me to do, I am going to do with eternal excellence. And then everything that I've ever hoped for is going to line up really well.
Wow.
But we have to be in a receiving place first, Coach. You know that.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. Sabrina, you want to share on that?
Yeah, they said it well, but what I would like to people who are coming to attend is to see this coronavirus season as God using, not causing, but using this opportunity for us to recreate it, or like I like to say, hashtag create it again, right? So we can wipe the slate clean and then recreate the ministry that we want to have going, because everybody's on an equal playing field for the most part. And so now you have the opportunity to ask God, who is the creator, to give you the creativity to create what you want to see and what it is there for our children, and using technology to do it, because so many people were against using technology. Even in my ministry, I had to ask my pastor to let me do a Kingdom Tech Center so that I can train people on Sundays to come in, and thank God we did that, so we were able to keep up when the time came. But just think of this summit as the opportunity to recreate, hashtag create it again. As y'all can tell, I'm teaching a creative class, so
hashtag create it again. Hashtag create it again. We have Angela listening in. Angela Marks, one of our speakers. Billy Johnson, my assistant, is listening. Margaret, God bless you. Hey guys, put a comment below and let us know you're watching and listening and where you're listening from. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about the Influencer Summit. We're talking about getting back in the game. This is our season, our time. Those of us who know we're called, we have to understand this statement still stands true, and that is the laborers are few in this hour, and the harvest still remains to be plenteous, okay? There's a lot of work. We ain't got no shortage of children in the world, okay? There's no shortage of kids in our cities and our towns and so forth. But what we need men and women who will take up the new charge to embrace ministry in this new format moving forward. The summit starts on Friday and it's Saturday. There will be people who, I don't know if I can still make it, talk about the urgency for training and development. You guys want to challenge those that are watching this, that when you call, it's important for you to tap into the fact that someone is assigned to help you with your call. And so you want to start with that, Pastor Rosemary?
When you talk about training, and you mentioned it before, Jesus is the master trainer. He had guys and women actually that followed him around for 3 years, and he poured into them, showed them exactly what to do. And then when he left them, he expected them to do what he had showed them to do. So these days, we think about training sometimes only in the workplace and only when we need to have a vocation that we need to get this training so that we can do what we need to do in life. But I believe it's so important in ministry that we get training. We train our children when they're growing up, and we get the training in our jobs. So we need to get training in the church. And I always say this: a leader who does not embrace training, the people that follow him probably won't embrace it either. So we've got to stir up some things in leaders and even in ourselves to know we need training, because training is valuable. It's a part of the life cycle. And without it, we cannot advance. We can't advance and do the things in multiplicity that we need to do because we don't have enough people doing it. So it's just a cycle in life that training is required. And if you don't get that in your head, you're always going to fall behind. And we can look at people that struggle in their lives and have a lot of issues. Is because they have no training. And if you don't have that vision, and that kind of ties in with that vision and training, if you don't have a vision, you don't have any training, it's going to die. So you got to make sure that you keep it alive by continuing to grow, continue to train, and you'll see parts of you that you never saw before if you get that training you need to advance.
Wow, that's so good. Pastor Sherry, you want to share on that?
It's all about urgency and change.
Yeah.
You know, if we were ever in the last days, we are really in the last of last days. And week before last, I'd shared this with Sabrina, and it bears repeating. Keep thinking of the verse in the Word of God that said, "Who kept you from obeying the truth?"
Yeah.
Who is keeping you from coming to this influencer summit, embracing change? Because I tell you what, if we're not going forward, we're going backwards. It's that whole backslider mentality. If you have not deliberately moved forward with God today, you are moving backward. There's the urgency. How is it going to be, for all of eternity, when we have to answer, who kept you from going to the Influencer Summit? Who kept you from embracing that conference and hearing me and getting the direction, the roadmap for your next days, weeks, months, years? I think that's a very slippery slope, and I think we better take heart, take heed and say, yes, I will show up. I will be attentive. I think that the stakes are very high.
Thank you, Sabrina.
When Pastor Rosemary said that Jesus was a great mentor, he had followers, but even Jesus himself said, "I do nothing unless what I see what the Father do." So even he was checking in to see and replicating what he saw his Father doing. And so if Jesus have to check in and replicate what he see, then you as kingdom people, we have to check in and see what other people are doing in the kingdom. And it's just, kingdom people, we need to take advantage of training and just growing. The world is doing it. And that's why I think the Bible says sometimes that the children of the world are wiser, because they'll go in and get these Zoom classes or whatever they need to do to enhance their skills to the next level. And we won't always necessarily do that. And so to be an influencer means you're current. You have to be current to be an influencer. And so we need to just make sure we're current. And it's good to just check in and see. Sometimes you might hear something that you're doing, and it's that confirmation like, oh, I am doing it right. Because we don't have that iron sharpen iron. This can just be a place to Holy Spirit to allow you to just get confirmation as well.
Oh, that is so good. Ladies, before I ask you another question, the interesting thing about this year's virtual training, it's almost like training on demand as well, because after having it on Friday and Saturday, which persons can watch it live, but for the next 30 days, they can go back and watch it at their convenience, or they can say, you know what, I'm busy all day Friday, but on Saturday and Sunday, they can spend time to go through those sessions. We have set it up in a way where individuals will be able to watch the sessions for 30 days. I think that's very, very important, because convenience, we live in a society of convenience now. You can go back and watch a session over a couple of times. You both ladies, Pastor Sabrina and Pastor Rosemary, being part of the summit in years past, there were individuals who would have said they wanted to go to all of the sessions, but because of how it was set up, they had to pick a session. Now you can go to all of the sessions. Oh my goodness.
I love that. Because I wanted to come to some Pastor Rosemary classes, and I was teaching sometimes at the same time she was teaching. And so I love that. And I love that it's convenient. I love that it's on demand. That's modern technology, because oftentimes people don't watch a program right when it airs. They watch it when it's convenient for them. So just to have it where there's no excuses, right? You take out the excuses at any time when you're convenient for 30 days, you can watch it. So I love it.
Now, ladies, I'm going to shift it a little bit. We're almost done, but I have a question. This is a major one. This is major, ladies and gentlemen. Vito is in Grand Bahama watching. Who else is watching? I need to listen. Vito and Linda Patrick, amazing people, doing great things. I have a thought. I spoke with a pastor on Saturday, and he said, "Well, brother, could you send me some more information about this training?" But also, I reached out to my team and I told them I'm going to need them to give me their $12.50 because just so y'all know, everyone's watching. Okay, everyone's watching. North Dallas is watching. Ashley Cotton says she's watching in North Dallas. Now, it's $99 for a team of 8. Okay, $99 for a team of 8. Last year, the summit in the Bahamas was $89 a person. Okay, it's $99 for a team of 8. It's like $12.50. Okay, you can buy 2 caramel macchiato with an extra shot in each. Okay, and so Pastor Rosemary, it's not like you know what I'm talking about, right? And so. But my thing is, I want to talk about investing. That's really what I want to talk about, and pastors investing, because the guy has been saying he wanted his Sunday school to evolve and go to the next level and so forth. And I said, Pastor, you can register 8 of your team members for $99, roughly $100. He said, well, you know what? No, they're gonna have to pay for this themselves. And if they're serious about ministry, they're gonna have to pay for it themselves. I mean, that's a challenge to say to volunteers to push in a small church that's already needing those people more than actually the bigger churches. And a lot of times the bigger progressive churches, those people have professionals who are willing to pay actually for themselves because they understand the great value this brings to children and to ministry and everything. Talk to that pastor who just doesn't get it in the understanding that this is an investment in his or her church and that you should pay for your team if you could. Or sow a seed in the department. Or everybody knows a professional person, someone who is blessed, who would say, "Oh, let me register." You know what I'm saying? I just believe you just gotta want it though, and I think some guys don't know how to embrace that. Talk to that for a minute. Anybody?
Well, I would say this. I think it's investing into the legacy of your ministry. And if we would have started that earlier, if ministries would have started that earlier, the people that you need to help you with your technology was in the generation that you overlooked.
Wow.
So they are gone because we didn't invest in them, but they could have came back and you would have been online. You would have been on the different platforms. You would have had someone to work the mic and the sounds and the green screen because that's their world. And because we didn't invest in them early, now you're looking for them to help you and they're not there. And so I just think that we need to think legacy. So we think current in this year's vision, but it's prolonged vision, right? What's the future of that? And the children, the next generation are the future of that, who come back and continue the legacy of the ministry.
Wow. So it's critical.
Sabrina, I think you're spot on. And it's linear thinking. It's generational thinking to say, oh, I may not have that $99 right now. I think the challenge that I might have had to him was not asking for 99. I'm asking for 199, the registration for each person and to bless them, to boot. Because whatever we're spending in children's ministry right now speaks to what the future of our church will look like. If we're not training up the children now to be coaches, junior coaches, leaders, to be helpful. Then when they're grown, they may not care about that anymore because they were not given the experience. He is missing the opportunity of a lifetime. And for all he knows, by training those children's minister workers, they may be reaching out to his replacement, to what will help sustain and build and expand that church. You know, that's like saying, oh, I'm not going to save today, I'm going to spend today and I'll save tomorrow. There may be a point when those resources are not readily available. I think it's urgent to spend it on the training today.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my.
So when you said that, I heard two big things. I heard where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I heard put your money where your mouth is. So if you value something, you're going to invest in it. We find resources for everything else we want.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the kingdom,
yeah,
it's like we're like going around trying to search and scratch and pull up everything. But God has already placed in front of everybody that has a desire to come and be a part of this, a will and a way to do it. And so if you look beyond what you're looking at, you'll see an opportunity that God will supply what you need to get it. Wow. And so I think that too, if you want greater ministry for your children, if you want greater ministry for your youth, if you want to empower those who are even in your church, to train them and bring them up, and like you all said, reproduce those leaders within the church so they will stay and they will be a part of it. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. You've got to invest in those individuals and you've got to help them to become better. And to me, this is really a part of discipleship. It's about reproducing so that the church and the work of the kingdom can continue. And we want our young people to know the Lord. We want them to think like him, and we want them to respond to who he is and what he's called them to do. So if you want all these things, you've got to put your money where your mouth is and know that there's a will, there's a way, because God will make a way out of no way if you're looking for it. So I get a little preachy there, but you know what I'm saying? God will do it. He will do it. If you want it and you say you want all these things, you can't just say it and then push it to the side. You got to make it happen.
Yes.
But God will help you make it happen.
You got to want to see that they're worth the investment.
That's right.
Yes. That
is so good. That's so good. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to three incredible women of God who has been leading the way in ministry to young people over the years. They're continuing to do that, and they're going to be a part of the upcoming Influencers Summit that's happening on Friday and Saturday. We have sessions that's going to address so many, many topics. And if you are a person that is passionate about the next generation, you need to be a part of this. But in addition, if you're a part of a church that you don't know if they know about this, please share this and ask the pastor, hey, you know there's a training. This is the time to get back in the game. This is the time for us to start opening our churches, and we're starting to re-enter our buildings and so forth. Well, here's the deal. It's important for those workers to know what are some of the things they need to be thinking about moving forward. And this is what I want to say, ladies, before we bring in our conversation to a close. There are some people prior to this pandemic, they were on burnout window. I mean, literally, they were overextended, and everything got shut down. And I call it now, they've been on a sabbatical. Okay, they initially when COVID-19 hit and the world, I mean, everything shut down. The church shut down. You ended up with people who was saying they were burnt out. They felt overextended. They felt like they wanted to throw in the towel. Now they've been able to get a level of rest that actually, I call it now a sabbatical. You've been on a 3 to 6 month sabbatical. This is a great and the finest hour to come back with fire, with passion, having prayed, having rested, having read your Bible, having just sat out for a bit. You know, you'd be like, oh man, I've sat out. I was watching the Netflix documentary with Michael Jordan, and when he was injured and they wanted him to sit out, and he said, man, I don't want to sit out, I can play. And they tell me you can't play that game, you can't. And when they gave him 10 minutes in the game, he came back in, he was hot. He was like, woo, I'm back in the game. We need children's ministry leaders to be like, listen, I'm ready to get back in the game. But there are some people, they have been given an opportunity to rest, but they're still carrying the thoughts of a tired person. Now.
Yeah.
They have been given the opportunity to rest, but they're carrying the thoughts of a tired person. Talk them out of that space to remind them what they needed initially. God actually gave it to them. Now you can't use that excuse of I've been overextended. You actually been on a nice break. Get back in the game. Who wants to jump at that first?
Ooh, I do. I want to jump on it because they think they're tired because of their thought life.
Yep.
You know, they remembered what it was like. So I think two things are really factoring in here, guys. I think, first of all, you bring your thoughts into captivity, whatever you're thinking on. Yep. If you think you're having a terrible, no good day, you got it. Yep. If you are thinking you're tired and exhausted and you need more rest, that's exactly what your body is going to require. So one, I think we bring our thoughts, you know, we rein those things in and we tell ourselves what is right. I am having a good day. I am not tired. I have a lot of energy, you know, and I think we speak truth to our mind.
Yep.
And then you know what it's like if you've been on a sabbatical or even an extended vacation. You have to tell your body what to do. Tell it to get up. Tell it to walk. You know, tell it to get some goals and objectives and meet those within a certain time. Some of this has a lot more to do with not being tired than it does just reminding ourselves about the call and saying, okay, I will answer. I mentioned it earlier. It's still holds so true. It's that sleeping giant mentality. I just want to say, wake up, wake up. You know, do the next thing. That's all you have to do. You don't have to remember everything you did or everything you may do. Do the next thing well. But, you know, we have to get up and get going.
Wow. Go ahead, Pastor Rosemary.
One of the things when people do feel like they have this burnout, of course, you know, when you said, oh, it's COVID, everybody's probably going like, woo, we get a break, you know. But my thing is to rekindle God's why in your life. So when we rekindle God's why, we remember why we did what we did when we started it. It's kind of like when you are married to something or someone, not something, someone, and you need a rekindling in that relationship. You need to do some things that will bring you back to a place of love and inclusion and understand the benefits of it. What we do in the ministry for our children and young people, there's a great benefit. We've been called to change lives for Christ. And if we don't rekindle that, we have to look at what will happen if we get tired and we don't move forward and we don't get in a place where we're always being refreshed. Because I always think of this. When things become like a heavy burden to you, you have to go and get relief. And God says, give me all your burdens, give me your cares. And if we are talking to God and we're praying as we minister, and we don't get so busy doing the stuff, but we remember God's why and what he called us to do, I think that will rekindle us and then create this new fire that we need to continue to do the work of the Lord.
Oh, that's good. Pastor Sabrina?
And I agree with both of those ladies. We have to really just know our assignment in what we're doing. You know, sometimes we'll take on our assignment and someone else's assignment and someone else's assignment, and just know your assignment in what God is calling you to do in children's ministry. And as long as you are making sure that your spirit is refreshed, you'll always feel refreshed to keep doing what you're called to do. And so we have to make sure that in this time that we got that quality time with God, that we don't lose that quality time with God when we get busy again. And I think that's what children ministry workers sometimes don't do, because we don't always make it over there to the adult worship and all that stuff. You have to have that quality time with God yourself so that you can continue to do everything he asks you to do. And that's how you really stay refreshed. And coming to stuff like the Influencer Summit keeps you refreshed, because you feel like you're around people, your tribe, right? You don't always have your tribe at ministry because they're running from you because they think you're going to ask you to volunteer, you know. But this is your tribe. We're in it together. We feel your frustration together. We know what a budget that don't meet the needs are. We know when, you know, we're not getting the participation that we want. We know when that activity, we know when volunteers call off that Sunday morning, you know, all of those different things. This is your tribe, so you get to come here and get refreshed.
You know, I've said this. That's so good, Sabrina. I've said this for years. It's impossible to put your hands in a bucket of glue without some of that glue sticking to you. I think when you gather at the summit, when you sit in a room, when you virtually be involved with hearing the same content of other progressive people, oh my goodness, it's hard not to, you know, roll up your sleeve and say it's time to get back in the game.
Yeah.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, don't shun what you've been called to do. Embrace what you've been called to do. This is the finest hour for the church. Be it as it may, that we have been disrupted at a level that we've never seen before. For those of us who will adapt, and that's really why I want to go back to now, looking at the critical need for children's ministry leaders and youth leaders to adapt. How important is it for leaders to be adaptable? I mean, this hour requires it. Well, the reality of it is some people are afraid to. Some people are afraid to. And so we got people tuning in from the Bahamas. We got people tuning in from Jamaica, all over the United States. Guys, the Influencer Summit is happening on Friday and Saturday. I'm talking with Pastor Sherry Chester, Pastor Rosemary Wimbush, and Pastor Sabrina Williams. And these ladies will be presenting at the Influencer Summit. We're talking right now about being adaptable as a leader, as a worker. Not, oh, I don't know how to do Zoom. Oh my goodness, I can't teach that way, and so forth. Let's talk about that, ladies.
It's really important because if you think about the ministries who in one day had to learn technology, is because they wasn't adaptable. Technology was around before the ministries closed down. It's just that you adapt to it, or were you so confined where people had to come inside to get the message? People had to come inside to hear you. People had to come inside to receive ministry. And so when you don't have that adaptable mentality, when life switches on you, then you adapt. And so you're reactive instead of proactive. And so leaders have to be proactive to continue to go on with the vision. So we have to be very adaptable to the times and the season and what God is saying in that time and season.
Wow, leaders have to be proactive. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? You are listening? Leaders have to be proactive. Don't wait until you have to have it. Go ahead and embrace what you are going to need. Someone might be watching us and they say, well, our church isn't opening back up until January. Our children's ministry is not going back until the first of the year. Well, okay, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't get your team trained right now. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be having virtual planning meetings to make sure that in the next 2.5 months, you guys are on point. Okay, Pastor Rosemary, you want to share a thought on that?
I think with adaptability, it comes with change. I think those two are kind of blended together. Yeah. And if you're not willing to change, you'll be in the back room watching everything else go past you. And so I think we need to be fluid. We need to be like the river, moving and turning at every corner so that we can have a clean flow. And if you don't embrace and being adaptable or even within change, you're going to miss out on some things. You're going to miss out on opportunities for you to grow, for the people around you to grow, and you to even expand. And I talked about that capacity a while back, but God wants to give us more so that we're able to give more. And if you just are not willing to be adapt to things, then you're not coachable. And then you have to ask yourself, what is it that I need to do in order to put my own emotions aside and do what I need to do so that I can help others get where they need to get. So I think that embracing change, being fluid, and being able to shift and change, it's like kind of like that thing with the military. We adjust, we adapt, and we overcome.
We adjust.
And, my husband's 30-year Navy, so I have to, that's their mantra. We adjust, adapt, and overcome.
We adjust, we adapt, we overcome.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Somebody needs to write that down. That is so good. Pastor Sherry, you want to share on that?
Okay, I think all of that is so well said. I want to remind us some things we've seen in the U.S. If you do not think outside of the box, you will get shut inside the box. Steinmark closing, Pier 1 closing, J.C. Penney, things that we thought were hallmarks of Western economy. And it's because they refused to think outside the box. They were not being proactive. They had not planned in advance. Adaptability is, to quote you, Ricardo, adaptability is about options.
Yep.
We need options. We need lots of options. And adaptability means you're creative enough to say, what do those options look like?
Yep.
You know, if this doesn't work well, what would work well next? And I think one or both ladies had referenced this earlier. We serve the creator of the universe.
Yep.
He is so into options. He's like, you want them? Here you go. You know, I have lots of them. So I think that we just have to think differently. You know, God is not limited by our problems.
Yep.
And we need to remember that moving forward. You know, having enough volunteers, that is not a problem to God. Having enough money is not a problem to God. He is asking if we're willing to check in with him and see what we could do differently. So I think a lot of this is on what are we willing to change.
Yeah. Wow, that is so good. Ladies, in closing, the joy of serving the next generation. What's your thought on it? That's our closing thought. I want to hear your input in that regards. There are a lot of people who have been called to serve the next generation. The Bible teaches us that we should train up children in the way they should go. And so when they're old, they won't depart from it. I've been teaching for years that we hold in our hands their destiny. We determine largely whether they fail or they succeed. What they are today, the world of tomorrow will be. And so as leaders, as adults, we have a responsibility to think legacy, to think succession, to think what will fate look like 25 years from now, and understanding that if the kids today don't get it, then tomorrow won't reflect it. And so I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on the idea of the joy of serving and pouring into the next generation, only to know that, guess what? The better we do our jobs today, it secures and it strengthens the platform of ministry in the future. Anyone want to share? Kick it off for us.
Well, I will. For me, I have a vision of what God has given me in the community where I live and the children that I have had an opportunity through him to touch. And I have a vision to see great faith in the earth, great faith in our community, great faith even in our state and in our nation and in our world. But I believe that if we take what God has given us very seriously, and we have a vision that aligns up with his vision, then we can see more of what he sees in our young people. We can see greater. It's almost kind of like we can see greater than what was even in us, like Jesus says, that will be within them because we have trained them well. And you mentioned, Pastor Ricardo, about if somebody had given us an opportunity to do an influence conference like this 20 years ago, what would we be like? And so we are saying right now, we have this opportunity to sow into them, and they can have greater than what we had in the faith, in life, in opportunities, in family. So if we have that vision for our young people, then it will not go to waste. It will not be hindered. It will not be put down. It will be built up, and it will be stronger because we now have a vision that aligns up with God's vision for our young people, and we can see what they can become in the future through his eyes.
That is so good. That's so. Which lady want to take that next?
I'll go. I have a personal vision that God's given me too for children and youth, and after salvation is them discovering their purpose. I believe that if you help a child discover their purpose in the kingdom, what God created them to be, then that is just at a young age to know what God has called you to do. And we know assignments change, but the core of who God built you to be, then what does adult ministry look like 20 years from now if you got a bunch of kingdom-minded people who already know their assignment in the kingdom? You know, you don't have to spend so much time tearing down faulty bricks, you know, because it's built on solid foundation. And so that is what I'm excited about. And so as influencers, we have the ability to help them after they come to salvation, know who they are in God. And so that's what I'm excited about.
That is so good. Pastor Rosemary, Pastor Sherry.
I think my heart for children, regardless of where I'm at, is want them to know the ways and the acts of God. And so when we're pouring into them, At that level, our ceiling becomes their floor. When they can hear God, see Him, experience Him, and they know it in a real practical way, and we're teaching other leaders how to do that, then tomorrow is going to have a revival with it. It's going to have an awakening because we've spoken truth and we've modeled truth. You know, it really doesn't matter what we see day to day in children's church or VBS outside under a tree or a backyard or whatever. It matters that we're pouring in, because this is the one thing I know, and God's word is true. It says, my word will not, cannot, shall not return void. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't even matter what they're saying. If we're speaking the truth is setting them free. The truth is growing them in them. It's germinating, and it is going to sprout a harvest like no other. So you know what? I want to plant seed. I want to water seed. And whether I get to see the harvest now or in eternity, it is worth it.
If it's worth it, ladies and gentlemen, well, there you have it. Listen, guys, every day this week, we're going to be popping in here up to Thursday evening, and then we launch on Friday morning. We want the world to know. Listen, we're getting back in the game. Every children's ministry worker, listen, call your director and say, listen, I'm eager to get back into serving with kids. Don't stand on the sideline. Embrace the call. Get the information necessary to continue to thrive in what you've been called to do. I am extremely grateful for these ladies giving us some of their time this evening. Listen, guys, please continue to pray for our presenters. Please continue to pray for this summit. Churches of all sizes will be participating in this year's summit. I like what one of the ladies said earlier. Maybe, I think it was Pastor Sabrina, maybe this may not be the conference or training that tells you something new, but reassures you that you're on the right track. And then it also brings you in a supportive environment to know that God is doing something great in the work and you're a part of that army. And so let's all make sure that if you are a pastor, that your church is represented. Ladies, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm excited about 3 days from now. You are amazing. You're going to bless some amazing men and women who have been serving kids in their different cities and their different churches. Y'all are the bomb, okay? We're about to do it. We're going to do it big. I'm going to hold that statement. Pastor Keno in the Bahamas, he wrote it down. He said, we adjust, we adapt, we overcome. Come on. Thank you, Pastor Rosemary, for that. Ladies, y'all have a great evening. Bahamas, Global Society, United States, Canada, China, Jamaica, hey, listen, Bermuda, wherever you're watching this and listening to us, know that the Influencer Summit is coming. And you should be a part of it. Your church should be represented. You guys have a great evening. We'll be back here tomorrow evening, same time, talking with some of our other presenters for the Influencer Summit. God bless you all. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.